Cloud system does not fail because of the big changes. It fails because of the tiny changes that nobody notices. In this video, I'm going to walk you through real world production problem and how SRE principle help us to solve that faster. Dashboards were all green, CPU were good, and latency was stable. Still, users are reporting that transaction failure, checkout timeouts, and the stuck payments, and we were clueless. Here, the first SRI principle comes into the picture that if user is experiencing an issue, that means your system is failing, so you have to adhere to it. That means that user experience is the most important thing over here. If that is not meeting, then you're failing. We had to act as per it, and we just jump into the our troubleshooting call and how it started. That the first thing we decided to look into the payment services log, and trust me, we were shocked that payment services logs were all clean. There were no errors into it. There were no timeouts. There were no spikes into it, and we went just clueless. But that's where the observability comes into the picture. You're just not looking into the logs. You're actually analyzing the logs, and what we analyze that only external service APIs are failing, but internal APIs are processing as per their uh, functionality. That's where we SRE thinking is different. Follow the flow path and not just the server, where you have to understand the network flow path, how the service is being activated, how the service is being accessed. So if you know that, then you're already winning in the SRE era. So next step would be like we identified the external APIs are failing. Then our suspicion, like we got our first clue, and we moved into our next step is that moving into the and analyzing the network flow path, like if everything is right on the network side, if everything is right on the squid side. When we went into the next step, we started to analyze the VPC flow logs and the firewall logs. So VPC flow log tell us that all the messages are being sent as a synchronization, but we are not getting the response back from the services. That means that something is not right with the network, and we have to think about it. If there is a firewall issue, if there is a squid issue, if there is a cloud NAT issue, if there is a DNS failure, or even though if there is any third party failure which is causing the service failure, and we were just on the call and thinking about it, then we have to apply the SRE principle. The another SRE principle is that the structured elimination and figuring out what to do. So we had our kind of a 6 to 7 suspect, like what can be the issue, what can cause this issue, and following the SRE structured elimination principle, we figured that out. Like we do the pointing system in it. Like I have a 7 suspects, I will just point it out like 10, 7, 5, 4, whatever rating you wanted to do as per your analysis. And we figured out like we marked like network firewall issue as a 10, which was the kind of a prime suspect. Once we identify the prime suspect, what we do, we go to the kind of a historical data, like what changes has been performed related to this service, or what changes has been performed in terms of the network. And we identified that the someone from the network side performed one change which actually removed or updated the rule which modified the primary subnet which is required for the external API to work, and they removed that primary IP subnet from the network rule, directly caused the system downtime. And that was the lesson learned, that system didn't show you any kind of denial, but all the traffic was dropped silently. Here again the main important SRE principle comes into the picture, that observability is over the monitoring, that you always needs to keep your observability thinking on. Even though your metrics are clean, your logs are clean, but tracing and flow is the only truth where you can actually identify the root cause. And as soon as we identify that is the root cause, we went back. We just had our firewall team to push that IP subnet range back into the rule. They deployed it, and the issue were resolved. So once that rule is applied and they deployed it, we just did the confirmation part. If everything is working fine, we went back to the backend system. We went back to the external users if they are seeing any issues or not. And then we concluded that issue is resolved. But here is the most important SRE principle is that restore first and then do the diagnose deeper later. Okay, that's the very important SRE lesson you have to keep in your mind. So everything is done now. We got the confirmation that the issue has been resolved. Users are happy, and as usual, our monitoring and dashboards are looking green. So we dropped from the call, and then we went to the RCA, where we just write down the lessons learned. And I wanted to share those lessons learned with you guys. Like, what are the things you need to keep in your mind whenever you are into the production outage, or whenever you're working on any kind of a incident which is impacting multiple services. Small changes are very high risk changes, and every change comes with the kind of a error budgeting. So you need to think wisely. Another one is that user SLIs are over the infrastructure metrics. So just don't rely on the infrastructure metrics. Always think about the what user experiencing and then act accordingly. The another one is that I think that is the important thing you need to act upon. Like, production configs must be GitOps control, and you should definitely follow that and learn about it. Last but not least is like, reduce MTTR with the structured troubleshooting. Just don't go with the guessing or the kind of a false analysis. Always make sure that you are doing the structured analysis and then providing the resolution, or then jumping to the next steps. So if you like it, please follow to the Let's Crack IT, and I'll be back with the more interesting outages and how SRE help us to solve that faster.